Hello everybody, and welcome to yet another installment of our great and fascinating Winemaker Minutes. And in this one, I'm going to actually talk about crushing. In the previous one, that if you happen to have catched it right before this one, I was talking about destemming, but this is what happens after destemming. And this year actually at Crush Pad, we got a real exciting opportunity to actually separate those two levels of processing, where we're going to have our sorting table, which we've had in the past 3 years, where we'll be cluster sorting, taking out leaves, taking out whole clusters that are too mildewy, or maybe even some clusters that have some shot berries. Then it will go through the destemmer. After that, in the past, it used to just go through the crusher and fall into the fermenting bin. This year, we actually have a secondary sorting table where we will actually be sorting by berries. So it's only going to improve the quality level of everyone's wine, because you will then be able to really pinpoint berry sorting, taking out individual dehydrated berries, little tiny green shot berries that can give you some nasty green components in the wine, and also take out those little jacks that always fall through when you go from destemmer to crusher. So now let's talk about crush and the different levels of crushing and why would we crush. First thing I would like to say is I don't like the word crush, because it usually means that you're taking a mallet and squishing a berry and completely destroying the whole thing. Where actually what you're doing is sending the berries through rollers. And the rollers actually roll inwards towards each other as the berries fall through. And the more spread out they are, the more whole berries come through. But if they're really tight and close, then what happens is the berries just split open. They don't get crushed. They actually just crack open. Then you release the juice into the fermenting bin so that you can start your extraction process during the soaking period. So now that we have kind of differentiated between rollers getting nice and close versus rollers spread apart, what kind of styles of wine can we make between a mostly crushed lot of fruit and a mostly whole berry lot of fruit? Now, what happens when you have a lot of whole berries in your fermenting bin, you get to get a lot of that bright fruit component coming through in the wine, and you get that nice kind of lush and jammy structure to it as well. When these berries are whole, there's a lot of this primary fermentation that starts happening within each of the berries, and over the course of fermentation, as you're doing the punch downs and the cap management, you actually split more and more of those berries open. It's that initial phase where they're going through the soak period, where those berries are whole, where you really impart that nice bright fruit component for your wines, like those Syrahs or like those Zinfandels that tend to have that nice jammy component to it and very fruit forward. Now let's talk about white wine and some of the varieties that actually benefit from doing some skin contact or doing a little bit of crushing. If you do a wine that you want to have some body to it, like a fuller bodied Viognier or a Sauvignon Blanc that's going to have a little bit more depth to it and not just be crisp and citrusy like a stainless steel fermented SB, you would crush it as opposed to going through the whole, press as whole clusters. And after destemming and crushing it, you would just allow the fruit to stay in contact with the skins and get you a little bit more of that focus and weight from the phenols of the skins. No color is going to get extracted, since the berries of white grapes do not have any anthocyanins, but they do have phenolics, they do have tannins, and you do pick up some of that tannin profile if you want your white wine to be a little bit fuller. Why would we want to do a certain amount of whole berry versus crush is really not dependent on the kind of wine you're making, whether it's a Pinot, a Cab, or a Zinfandel, but really more focused on the style of wine you want to make. Are you looking at making a wine that's going to be very fleshy, very rich, and very fruit forward? You should be looking at probably doing quite a bit of whole berries in your fermenting bin. Whereas if you want to get that good extraction happening, you want to get the color coming through, you want to get the tannin profile to start to develop early on in the winemaking process, then doing quite a bit of splitting of the berries, not crushing, even though we do call it crushing, then you would want to go a higher percentage in that direction. Thank you.